Morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by that fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. And yes, friends. Love have the friends on. Good friend today, one of my favorite guys in the hobby, is going to talk about his awesome collection of Nolan Ryan baseball cards. And you will be amazed when we go through the cards. So let me bring him on now before I start babbling. Good
Hey
morning, sir.
Dan,
How are
how
you?
you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You know, uh, you've been on a couple of my lives, and we've been on together with a few different things, and obviously we've hung out multiple times. But you'd never been on my channel before,
No, first
and
time.
I feel like
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I have to explain that because I never thought I had a good enough Nolan Ryan run to do this show, but now I got the 69 recently, and I
Nice.
went out and bought the 72 specifically for this show. So there
There
you
you
go.
go. That's awesome.
So as I do with all my guests, and I know a lot of this personally. A lot of my guests I don't know the information when I ask about it. But just tell me a little bit about your the Darren backstory. You're collecting as a kid, getting back into the hobby, all that stuff. So let's let our viewers know about your basic
Sure.
hobby history, so to speak.
Sure. So yeah, I collected as a kid back in the 80s. I started collecting probably in 88, 89. And back then, I was collecting, I was opening packs. For birthday and the holidays, my mom would buy my brother and I complete sets of tops and upper deck and sometimes Fleer and Don Ross and it was just a fun time. We really enjoyed it. It was kind of cool because even back then I was a vintage guy. Back in '89, I'm like, man, I got to save up and buy an '84 Topps Mattingly, right? So it been collected a lot back then, and then when I lived in Jersey, and then I moved to Colorado. My dad got transferred for work when I was a freshman in high school. And when I moved to Colorado, none of my new Colorado friends collected, so I kind of stopped collecting and just started doing other things, and just kind of got out of it. My dad actually, when I graduated from high school, he started getting back in, or right around the time I graduated from high school, he started getting back into collecting, and I thought it was cool that he was doing it and he was buying some pretty cool stuff. And I would enjoy, looking at his stuff and talking about it, but I just never really got back into it myself at the time. And then on my 40th, for my 40th birthday, my parents decided to get me something. They said, look, like you're so focused on adult stuff now, like family stuff and work stuff, that it'd be nice if you focus on something that was fun. I said, I don't need to do that kind of stuff, right? I'm too busy, too much
Fun,
stuff, too much responsibility, right? Like whatever. And they said, well, we got you something that you wanted when you were a kid. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then they handed me this little rectangle, wrapped in wrapping paper. I was like, oh, what is this? Right? Because when I stopped collecting, they didn't have card grading or anything back then, right? So I'm like, yeah, I wonder what this is. So I unwrapped it, and it was my dream card as a child, and 6 years later, 7 years later, still the best card in my collection. It was my
well, we will
68. This is my 68 Ryan.
we'll see that in a little bit and talk about it. But so and then I guess take it from there. Don't let me interrupt. Take it from
Yeah,
there because
sure.
that's not the end of the
So
story. Yeah.
they got me that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And the whole trip, we were actually on vacation. It was my 40th and my dad's 70th. So, and it was over Thanksgiving. So the whole family, my parents, my brother Dean, at the time it was his girlfriend, and then at the time my girlfriend is not my wife, and his girlfriend's not his wife, and all the kids. We went to Hawaii for Thanksgiving, and like they gave me that card probably like the fourth or fifth day of like a 7-day trip. And after they gave me that card, like instead of going and sitting on the deck, because we were on the North Shore, which is pretty cool, right? It was just before the World Surfing Championships on the North Shore, so we got to sit on our back deck and watch like these ridiculous surfers. Like they were there the first day. Actually, my stepson at the time, my girlfriend's son, now my stepson, was like, Darren, look at that. I go, what? And he's like, that guy just did a backflip. I'm like, what? I was thinking he like did a backflip on his surfboard. This guy hit the wave, grabbed his surfboard like it was a skateboard, and did a backflip holding the surfboard and landed and kept surfing. And I was like, whoa. So like we were just watching that, and it was just such a great time. But once they gave me that card on like I think day 4 or 5, I spent a lot less time out there watching the surfers, and I noticed I was spending a lot of time just like sitting on the couch, just looking at the card and just loving it. And I went online and started looking to see like, oh, maybe I should start getting other cards. And basically, I went from getting that card in November of 2018 through I'd probably say October of 2019, so a little less than a year, and I had built my entire Ryan run. Like I just fully got back into it. Built the entire Ryan run. I also picked up a couple other cards. I picked up my 56 Mantle and my Clemente rookie and my Aaron rookie, because those were all cards that I just loved when I was a kid, seeing him at card shows, and obviously never being able to pick them up. So I was just before my birthday a year later, and I had pretty much the whole run other than the 69, and then my parents decided to, for my birthday when I turned 41, hey, let's finish up his run for him. So they got me that. And then, so basically 1 year on the day of my getting my first baseball card, in, 20 something years, 30 something, oh geez, almost 30 years. I completed my Ryan run, and that was really cool. And, I just love Ryan. He's one of my favorite players ever. He was my favorite player when I was a kid. And I know some people question why Ryan. He had a lot of, he didn't have a, he didn't have a, he had a lot of losses. He had a lot of walks, right? And I'd say I don't care. Like he was such a different pitcher. Like it's hard to compare him to people, right? Like he yeah, he had a lot of walks, but he also had like well, obviously he's the most strikeouts of all time. And when you think about how many strikeouts he had, I was watching the Ryan documentary, Facing Nolan, and they have all these incredible players come on, right? Rod Carew, Cal Ripken Jr., Clemens, I'm trying to think who else, like tons of guys that faced him, that played with him. Randy Johnson, obviously, who came on, and they were talking about how great of a pitcher he was, and how scary of a pitcher he was. And you got guys that don't really necessarily build up other people, right? Like a guy like Reggie Jackson, right? Reggie Jackson, if you ask Reggie, Reggie's the man. Reggie was the man, but if you ask Reggie, he was like the ultimate man, right? And but even he says, look, the nights before I faced Nolan Ryan, I went to bed early because you had to be prepared, right? And he said, no man has ever scared me, but facing Nolan Ryan got me a little nervous, right? And then Randy Johnson, he made a comment that kind of resonates, right? He said, I'm number 2 all time in strikeouts, and Nolan has 1,000 more than I do. So it like puts in perspective, right? I mean, the guy, 7 no hitters, that will never be broken. 5,714 strikeouts, that will never be broken, right? He's even though he had a lot of losses, he still had over 300 wins, right? He has the lowest batting average for batters facing him of all time. He has the fewest hits per 9 innings all time. I mean, yeah, he does have records that aren't good, like walks, but still, he gave up the most grand slams of any pitcher ever. He gave up 10 grand slams over his 27-year career. And that's the other thing too, right? 27 seasons.
27 seasons.
He retired. I'm as old now as he was when he retired. And I couldn't like even fathom that. Like if I had to go play catch, if I'll be lucky if I'm throwing that thing 40 miles an hour these days, right? And he was throwing high 90s,
High 90s.
I mean, mid to late 40s, right? It's so like all of that to me, just he's just he was such an incredible player. And like I said, you can't really compare him to anybody because there was nobody really like him. And I think the best showing of that, really, like the best kind of backing of my position on no one's really like him, is if you look at all the different players throughout history, you look at their WAR, right? There's the F WAR, the B WAR, the P WAR, right? And I'm not a WAR guy. I'm not a big modern stat guy, but just as a comparison point, most people, you look at their wars and like the 3 wars, they're never the same, but they're like similar, like ranking wise, right? Like, this player might be, Babe Ruth, he has more or less the top 1 or 2 WAR across all the different wars, right? But you look at Nolan Ryan, his baseball reference WAR is like a 81 or 82, 83, something like that, which is still good, right? But then you look at his F WAR, it's 106, right? So it's much higher, right? And then his P WAR, he broke the system. He has the highest P WAR of any player in the history of baseball at 157 or 158, right? So he, like, to me, that kind of goes to show he was such a different player, and he was so special compared to pretty much anyone else who's ever played, that even these modern stats that, like, MIT PhDs come up with, they can't even make it work for him. Like, he breaks that, right? So, these are the guys that write algorithms that beat the market trading, but they can't figure out how good Nolan Ryan was, right? That's how good he was. So, yeah, so that's why I just think he's great, and he's a cool guy. And one of the things that, I didn't know much about him early on when I was watching him, but like I've learned a lot more about as I've read books about him and stuff, as I've gotten, as I got back into collecting, is he's also just like a genuinely good guy. He's a family guy. He puts his family first, and I think that's really cool, because a lot of these guys, they're so good. They have these big egos, and yeah, I mean, they care about their families, but you could not necessarily say that they always put their family first. And Nolan Ryan does, right? Like, he, if you see in the interviews with any of his kids or grandkids, like, they are like, he's the greatest. It has nothing to do with him playing baseball, right? So I appreciate that too.
He pitched a game, I guess, against his son when he was like 60 or something. I was going through and doing the research for it, and that kind of came up. But I get the a very unique kind of player, and we'll talk about some of this as we go through, because there's some things that are amazing about his longevity. And one that we won't talk about this later on, but I'll talk about something with fathers and sons later on. But he faced Roger Maris and Mark McGwire, which is kind of one of those sort of like the home run guys. He faced Barry Bonds. I mean, he faced guys in the mid 60s, late 60s, and then people into like the early 90s. So,
yeah,
you
I mean,
get a whole group of two generations of players.
Yeah, if you look at the list of people he struck out, it's incredible, right? He struck out Hank Aaron,
Yeah.
right? He struck out Hank Aaron, but he also struck out Bonds, right? Like, it's just, the longevity thing. And that's the other thing, like, and that's a big thing for me too, right? Is, when people are like, oh, but he had a lot of losses. He had a lot of losses, but he played 27 seasons, and he played for, basically, other than the Mets. I mean, this is a weird thing for me to say, but other than the Mets, he played for shitty teams, right? Not forever shitty teams, right? Astros are good.
Right.
All these teams are good, but when he played for them, they weren't good, right? So, the fact that he still had 323 wins, I believe, is incredible. And it's funny, because when you watch the Facing Nolan documentary, when they're interviewing all these guys, they ask them, they're like, hey, Rod Carew, how many Cy Young awards has Nolan Ryan won? George Brett, how many Cy Young awards has he won? Cal Ripken, how many Cy Young awards has he won? And they ask all these guys, and they're like, I don't know, 3, 4. And then they're like, no, he's won 0. And they're like, what? Like, they're legitimately like angry. Like, George Brett seemed like really pissed off when they told him he's had no Cy Young awards. And like, my dad joke on that is, when people bring that up to me, they're like, yeah, but he never won a Cy Young. I said, yeah, you know what though? Neither did Cy Young.
Well, we'll talk a little bit about that. But you brought up the Randy Johnson thing, and I saw this Randy Johnson pitched until he was 45 also. He pitched a really long time. He didn't start as young as Ryan, but he pitched until he was 45.
Right.
And he's more than 1,000 strikeouts behind Nolan Ryan. He would have to average more than 200 strikeouts until he was into his 50s to catch Ryan.
Mm.
It's like, and that's Randy Johnson.
You know? Yeah, right. And it's not, I mean, that's kind of some of the other stats, right? Like he, in his 40s, he had a season where he pitched over 300 strikeouts in a season in his 40s. Yeah. He had 2 no-hitters in his 40s. Right.
The other one about strikeouts is that I think Bert Blyleven is 4th in strikeouts. And they figured out that Bert Blyleven is as close to Ryan is as the person who is 114th career in strikeouts to Bert Blyleven. So you go from 4 to 114th, and then from 1 to 4. That's the depth of distance between he and even the top guys.
Yeah, it's nuts. And if you just think about it, like he had 6 seasons where he had over 300 strikeouts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, right? I mean, and when you think about like when he played for the Angels, you know, he had 3 seasons where he had, you know, I think 3 seasons in a row he had way over 300, like way into the 300s. That's the year he got his 383 and past Koufax in the last game of the season. I think to pass Koufax, he had to have like 14 strikeouts that game, and he did, or 15, and he got it. So that's pretty impressive. But those same 3 years, he had over 300 strikeouts. He also had, I believe, like 20 wins. Yeah, he had 19 wins, 21 wins, and 22 wins. His ERA was, you know, mid to low, I guess, high, in the mid to high 2s, right?
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. His look at that, in what was that, 72, 5.3 hits per 9 innings.
He struck out 300 guys or more 5 out of 6 seasons in the 70s.
Yeah.
In 1973, which is the season that he probably should have won the Cy Young Award, he struck out 383 guys, which is still the modern day record, and 21 and 16 with a 2.87 ERA. The year before, he had 9 shutouts, complete game shutouts, 2.28 ERA. So in that period of time when he's with California and they're a 500 team, he is absolutely dominating the league. And he finished Cy Young 2nd in 1973 and 3rd in 1974. 74, though, if you look at it, he probably doesn't necessarily deserve that Cy Young, but 73, when he set the all-time record for strikeouts, he does deserve that Cy Young. So, you know, I mean, back then, Cy Young voting was based a lot on number of wins versus losses, and also how well your team did.
Yeah.
You know, teams that won tended to get the guys.
And that's what's funny, right? If you think about it, if he played for, instead of playing for, you know, the Angels, the Astros, and the Rangers for the majority of his career, if he had played for like the Reds or Baltimore in the 70s, like early 70s, and the Yankees in the 80s and into the early 90s, he'd have 400 and something wins, and, you know, he probably would have had 4 or 5 Cy Young awards.
Yeah. The reason, well, they won the 79 Angels won the division, and then they didn't want to offer him enough money, so he went to Houston, which was also a good team at that point.
Yeah, I mean,
Houston,
they
made the playoffs in 80 and 81, and then of course 86, which is the legendary series with the Mets, but could never get back to the World Series. Should mention that he was a World Series hero in 1969 in 2 different respects. One of which was a game in the National League playoffs that he came in relief and pitched well, and then the World Series, I think it's Game 3, where he relieves Gentry in like the 3rd or 4th inning, and then pitches the rest of the game, and they win the game. And that was really sort of a turning point in the 69 World Series. But he could never quite get his footing with the Mets. And then he goes from being a 500 pitcher with the Mets with a lot of walks And then the following season, he pitches for the Angels, and he absolutely is dominant. As we talked, it's like a 2 point something ERA with
Yeah.
300 strikeouts. And I'm wondering if you have a theory, because I
Yes.
do, of why he went from being mediocre with the Mets to absolutely dominating with the Angels.
So, a couple things. I think the primary one is on the Mets, he didn't have a pitching coach, and he did on the Angels. He got a pitching coach his first season on the Angels, and they worked on control with him. So I think that was like huge, but also he didn't like New York City. I mean, he's a Texas ranch guy, and he just didn't like the city. It was too much. It wasn't his thing. So, going to the Angels, it was a little, obviously it wasn't like when he was playing, for the Astros or the Rangers, but going to LA, and living in the burbs, and it's a little bit slower pace than living in Manhattan, right? So that was, I think, big for him. And then his wife kept giving him, she kept reassuring him, like, look, like, this is, don't, because he wanted to quit after the Mets, and she's like, don't quit, like, you have a gift, and you're not going to walk away from that gift. And then that gave him the motivation, and then he was just happier in life not being in New York City. And then obviously the big one was having an actual pitching coach teach him stuff, because he said he never really was coached on pitching until then.
Yeah, yes, in that time frame with the Mets, 70, 71, they were disappointing seasons after the World Series. Gil Hodges was still the manager, but Gil Hodges was not a pitching coach.
Mm.
The pitching coach was Rube Walker, who was like Gil Hodges' buddy from the Dodgers days. But coming up in the Mets system, and you could see this by the way that he pitched, the way that Seaver pitched, and the way that Kuzman pitched. They used the drop and drive, which was a primarily using their legs to pitch.
Mm.
And all three of those guys pitched for 20 years or more, because it was better to use your legs instead of your arm. Everything now is arm, arm, arm. He never really got hurt. He had a couple of seasons where he lost some starts, but for the most part, he never really got hurt. He was never out for any significant period
No,
of
I
time.
mean, he never really got hurt. And the other thing that he started doing too, especially as he started getting older, was he was one of the first baseball players who really focused on, hitting the gym, and not just going in and lifting weights, but like having a trainer teach him,
Yep.
like, hey, your shoulder's sore. Here's what we're going to do for like stretching it out and working it out and strengthening tendons and stuff. Right. It's not, it's not like, because back then, like, football players, obviously they all worked out all the time, but they did, bodybuilder stuff, right? Bench press, squats, all that. Ryan actually started learning how to, working in the pool. And even I think when he was on I think it was the Astros, maybe it was when he got to the Rangers, they started putting the sensors on him and having him pitch, and then recording like movements, and they would tweak his movements and stuff. And yeah, I mean, he had, I mean, honestly, when he pitched his 7th no-hitter, he went into the game and told Bobby Valentine, hey, I think I'm done. My back hurts so bad. I think I might be done. And Bobby Valentine was like, I don't know how I'm going to be the one to tell the world that he's done. So he started pitching, and I guess, he started doing pretty well in the game. Obviously early on, he started striking the people out, and, his back was hurting him, but he's old school, right? He's a rancher, right? He's not like guys now, like, no offense to guys now. He's not like a guy now. He's like, oh, something just doesn't feel right. It's a little tight. I need to sit and rest. He's like, no, he goes, I'm not injured. It hurts. It bugs me. It hurts and it bugs me. So I'm just going to work through it. And he started pitching and pitching, and, he loosened up, and then ended up pitching a 7th hitter, right? Like, that was the game. Literally at the start of that game, he's like, I'm done. And he finished it, and he's like, oh, well, never mind. I'm not done. I got another no-hitter, right? So like he did a great job of keeping himself in shape as he got older, and like being really smart about that, which, that I think goes a long way. I think what he did, a lot of stuff that he did, has kind of transformed how players now do things, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
It's like the first thing he did that really applies now is, he was the first baseball player to get, or I think for that first athlete to get $1 million annual contract.
Yep. I remember
right?
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was big. Now, like, you could be the shittiest baseball player there is, and if you're not making, $1 million a year, you're going to go do something else, right? So,
So with the my theory with the getting really, really good from the Mets to the Angels is it's a couple of things. One is that with the Mets, he was behind two other major guys, and he was not thought of as the main guy.
correct. Yep.
And he didn't get as many innings, and he was criticized for the wildness. And then when he went to the Angels, he was the man. He was given the number one role. It's all you. Throw as many innings as you can. So,
Mhm,
in essence, as you were saying, it sort of freed him up a little more.
mhm.
But one of the other things is the leagues themselves. The National League in the early 1970s was much more of a base to base, contact hitting, the Pete Roses of the world, the annoying guys that just get on base and steal. And, that's the American League in the early 70s was a free swinging league. Reggie striking out and all those guys. And to a certain extent, I think he benefited from a different style of play that in the American League, you're going to get free swingers. So that high riding fastball that in the National League, everybody took for a ball was now a swinging strike in the American League. And to a certain extent, I think that is part of the reason why he got so much better. But, the pitching coach, Del Rice, I believe Del Rice was his manager. Del Rice was a pitcher, I believe, and he was also a pitcher type manager. So that
Mhm.
is absolutely correct. And like I said, the freedom and the confidence given to him by the Angels saying,
Yeah,
"It's your
absolutely.
ball. Go out and pitch."
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and that's what I think was funny was, he was really in his groove, and they didn't trade him or I guess, yeah, they didn't trade him to the Astros because they thought he was like not doing as well. It was the guy that owned the Angels at the time basically said two things. One, I think his head's getting too big, which, okay, cool. He's a professional athlete. If he doesn't have a big head, then he's not doing something right, right? They need to have, if you don't have like high self-worth as one of those guys, you're not going to perform well. And also he made, a really stupid financial point of, well, I could hire two pitchers for less than half of what I pay him each. And, if their combined wins are about the same as his, then, it saves me money. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, the Angels to the Astros thing never made any sense to me because the Angels themselves in the 80s went out and got a bunch of free agents.
Yeah.
Rod Carew and Reggie Jackson and
Yeah.
Fred Lynn and all those guys. They spent a lot of money on free agents, and that
Yeah.
'86 team, the Angels '86 team, was filled with a bunch of those veterans. In fact, there's a picture of the Angels in that time period, and it's four guys who won the MVP with other teams.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but Ryan, so what's the last thing I was going to say about Ryan before we get in? We got to get this is a baseball card channel, Darren. We got to get
Yes.
into the
We
cards.
got to talk cards. Absolutely.
So, as we normally do, we'll start out with mine, which I said before. I'm now a proud owner of this card, which I've had for a couple of years now. It's a
Great card.
three. Yes, it's a three, but it's nice. It's a nice,
That's a very
presentable
nice
three.
three. That's a very
Yeah.
nice three.
And yeah, I mean, it's 1968. He's thin. He's still, he's still kind of finding his way. He came up in 66 for a little bit of time.
Mhm.
But it was 68 where he became a full-time major leaguer. And this, as we know, as Mookie Chilson calls it, the Jerry Koosman rookie card.
Mhm.
Jerry Koosman himself, borderline Hall of Famer, 200 and some odd wins and 20 something seasons, and he was a fantastic pitcher who was himself a star of the 1969 World Series. So
Yeah.
amazing baseball card. I like the 68 card, so I don't have a problem with this, but with
Yeah.
the brown, but
A lot of people tell me that they're like, "That's an ugly card," and I ask them, "Okay, why?"
yeah,
Like,
I disagree.
I
Yeah,
think it's a great looking card. I think both of the images are great images, and the 68 set is a 68 set, right? It's not like this is like a weird. I mean, honestly, if you ask me, compare this to like a Pete Rose rookie, right? I would say, this is a lot like this is like 100 times better looking than that.
totally agree. And then I got the 69 very recently in a six. It's an
Beautiful.
old label, but it's nice. And as my viewers will know, I am building the 1970 set in all autographs. I'm now over 400 different autographs, and this
Nice.
one I bought. Shout out to Eric from Abe Stark Cards, who I purchased this from at the White Plains show about a year ago, I think. I'll link down below. Eric's a terrific guy, and we got a good deal. I got a very good deal on this based upon having recently put it into Card Ladder.
Nice.
What I paid for it versus what it's worth now.
Oh yeah.
Pretty good. It's 1970 tops, but authentic. I think the person didn't want it graded because you can see that there's a crease right below his elbow there. But the auto is a 10, and it's he's got a good auto, as we'll see from yours later on. I think it's a nice auto. It's a very signature
Yeah.
type, but you can definitely make it out to be Nolan Ryan. So
Absolutely.
that's one of my, it's normally in the display right behind me here. And then the 71, which my viewers will remember, I did a show where I've collected all 52 action shots from the 71 set in high grade PSA. This 5 is the lowest because going up higher would cost me a lot of money, as you might know.
Tough
And
card.
then the 72, which I purchased just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe even last week,
Nice.
in a CSG. And CSG, I put this on my Instagram, and I said, why CSG? Well, when I was shopping for this card, which I have needed for a long time on my 72 set build, I looked at a lot of examples of this card in, because it's a popular card. It's a semi-high number. It's been graded from the earliest days of grading, and there are some really, really overgraded examples of this in old PSA holders, 5s that are, would be 2s or 3s now. And then, it's a popular player and a tougher card, and it's overpriced a lot of the time. I just went through and I felt that this was, buy the card, not the slab, buy the card, not the plastic. This was the best card with the best deal. And I even made an offer on a best offer and got like $40 off more than I would have gotten.
Nice.
So I ended up paying well below comps for what I think this card is worth. So I was happy with it.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I haven't shown it yet, but I have a card that I'll probably show. I don't know, maybe in a couple of weeks. I'll do a video that I bought that I picked up in a Beckett slab.
Yeah.
At a BBG, and I'm not a slab guy. I know that a lot of people like to talk about PSA versus SGC versus this versus that, and I totally understand why people want to talk about that. It's a big piece of the hobby, but me personally, I don't care what slab it's in. Like I'll buy, if I like the card, I'll buy the card from companies that don't even exist anymore.
But this, I feel it up close, fairly graded. It's not undergraded, it's not overgraded, it's fairly graded, and I paid less money than I would have if it were in a different plastic holder.
Yeah.
So
why
I'm
not? You're
happy
buying
with
the card, right? So that's the right move.
Yeah. So I asked you to send me what I like to call the money shot, and there it is. That is Nolan Ryan, every flagship Nolan Ryan card from 1968 to 1994, and we'll go through them all.
Yep, he's top run because I know if Mike Baseball Collector watches, my 88 is a Tiffany. I did swap the 90 out for a regular because I had a Tiffany in that one too, but I still have the 88 as a Tiffany. So just want to caveat that. But other than that, they're all his tops base playing day run.
Yeah. And, there are cards certainly on the fringes that exist for him, the Kellogg's cards and, the Hostess and, in the 80 and 81, there's Burger Kings and Cokes. And I think it's 92 where he has like the first 6 cards in the top set, all the different records and stuff. And, he's got tons of leader cards, certainly.
Yeah, so I've got in the case right behind me here, I've got all of his 1990s. So there's the Mets, Angels, Astros, and Rangers 5,000 strikeout cards, and then I've got some of his stadium clubs, like the Tuxedo card, you can't really see him very well. Sorry. And then up at the end here, second row up, that's his 2001 tops. Right here, the 2001. That's
Right.
The Hope Diamond card of his, which I picked
Right.
that one up recently just because I don't collect a lot of like newer stuff like that, but I just thought that was a cool one because it was I watched can't remember who I was watching somebody's channel. It might have been Shane Shoebox Legends. He was showing a couple different cards from that set, the Hope Diamond cards. And I was like, oh, I wonder if Nolan Ryan has one, and he did. So I picked it up. So that was a cool card.
There you go. So there it is. You told a story about it, a wonderful story about the Hawaii trip and your folks and the 40th birthday. So you were born on your father's 30th birthday. That's really cool.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
I think that's terrific. Also, I'm a November guy too, so
Nice.
shout out to November. So there you go. I mean, I admit I did look it up. In fact, I'm going to show it right now. Let's see if this comes up. So I pulled out the SGC Pop Report, card number 177. It says Nolan Ryan, but it's Nolan Ryan and Kuzman. 6,820 graded, 2 10s, 4 9.5s, and 22 9s. So that puts you in the top 28 cards graded of a 6,800 card run of cards, which honestly, I mean, I have to assume that PSA has graded many examples of this card also. Let me put it back up.
Yeah, no, but, and I'm so happy to have it. It's such a beautiful card. I can't, I'm not a grader, so I can't say, but I've looked at the high res images of the PSA 10 and the SGC 10s and the SGC 9.5s, and I can't see any difference whatsoever between them. And honestly, I don't really care about the grade. I just, from an eye appeal perspective, to me, this card is perfect. It's centered, it's sharp corners, it's got like perfect registration, no snow. Like I love this card. It is, to me, this card is perfect to me.
Yeah, you mentioned the snow. I was just about to say, in fact, one of the flaws in my example, like that we agree is a pretty solid 3.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And, a nice looking card for a 3 is the snow in the Mets. That purple on your card is just rich and clean and just perfect. And a lot of these cards have, like you said, the snow, and that purple really is a color that does get the snow in it, and that creates a bit of a problem. And you get sort of smearing on these too. The 68s, because there's so many different colors, particularly on this card, that you end up, a lot of them do have registration issues that aren't necessarily seen right away, but if you look closely, you can find them. This one, like you said, there are no registration issues at all. In fact, that purple on the Mets is perfect. So, congrats on this. It's really a centerpiece kind of card, and good for you that you have this in your collection.
Favorite card in my collection.
I'm sorry?
It's my favorite card in my collection.
All right. Yeah. So, we also you got the 69 and a 9. So tell this, what's the story on this? You did mention it, that it's your parents were involved.
So for my 40th birthday, they got me the 68, and then I got super, like literally, like I was saying, even when we're in Hawaii, I was Googling how to buy cards. I didn't know. I didn't even realize eBay sold baseball cards. So I was like, what? eBay? So I started going through all the stuff on eBay, and I'm like, huh. My dad's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I could just start buying all these other Ryans and do his full tops run. And he's like, all right, slow down, calm down. So I'm like, all right. So I think I started ordering them. I think I ordered like 1 or 2 while we were still in Hawaii to have shipped to the house when I got back. And I basically got all of his playing days tops cards by my next birthday. And the only card I still needed was the 69. So my parents got me this one for my birthday. So on the 1-year anniversary of getting my first Ryan, I got my last one I needed to complete the run.
That 70 is a high number. It's what, card number 712.
Yeah.
When I was completing my 1970 top set back in 18, not the autographed, which I'm still working on, this was one of the last cards. I mean, I would say the high numbers are tough in 70. My last card was actually Mickey Lolich, which is a 700 something. But Ryan was probably one of the last 5 cards that I got. And I know how much it cost back in 2018. So I can only imagine. This is an 8, right? A little
Yes,
blurry.
yeah. I apologize. This one's. I didn't realize that this was hopefully, there's not very many blurry pictures. It's looked clear to me on my phone when I sent it. I apologize, but yeah, this one's an 8.
Yeah,
And
and the
then
pop on this has got to be low because of the numbers.
yeah,
it's
I think
right?
so. I mean, what's funny is his 68 and 69 are very expensive. His 71 is very expensive. The 70, I think, is out of his cards prior to 78. I think his 70 is one of the more reasonably priced ones, I think, compared. But again, his stuff, since I've bought all of these cards, his stuff has gone up like some of his cards have gone up more than 10x since I bought them.
Yeah. Well, the
So we got
71 is
71.
not. It's a semi-high. It's also, as all 71s, subject to chipping on the border, the black border. But when you get up into the 8 and 9 range, you get pretty much perfect borders.
Yeah. So the reason that I wanted to do his whole run prior to like 70 or prior to like 80. I wanted to do them in 9s and then do 10s after 80. And then I bought this 71 kind of early on when I was picking up the run, and I realized this thing looks perfect. I mean, it's maybe a touch off center left to right, but it looks perfect. It has no chipping. And I'm like, okay. Then I looked at what a 9 costs. And even then I was like,
Yeah.
whew, like back then when I bought this,
Yeah.
the 9, I think a 9 in this was like 5, like up into the 5 figures. So I was like, oh, that's not worth it. So I bought the 8 that looks perfect. And then when I bought that, it actually gave me a little bit of like, it kind of chilled me out a little bit and said, oh, you know what? Some of these ones that are pretty pricey, maybe I won't go with a 9, even though that was my goal. Maybe I'll go with, an 8. So by buying this one in an 8, it made me, not uncomfortable in breaking my plan to pick up the 70 in an 8 as well.
Well, he's I have so many of these action cards. I have all of them in high grade. I can say that Bud Harrelson has a card in the 1971 top set. It's a horizontal card, and it has Nolan Ryan in it. In fact, his number 30 his back is to the camera, and that card catches a premium not because it's Bud Harrelson, but because Nolan Ryan plays a cameo in that card. And that's one of the last cards I got when I put together that mini run of the 52 action cards, because it was so expensive to buy a Bud Harrelson card because Nolan Ryan is in it. So
I love it. That's great.
That was a problem for me. 72, also semi-high number. First Angels card. And as we talked about before, very popular card to be graded in the early days. But you got an 8.5 that is a fairly graded 8.5. So kudos for that.
Really happy with this. I picked, when I started picking these up, I basically set my budget for all these and realized that, the 70, 71, 72, and 73 and 9s were too much. So I went with the best I could find. And I'm not a huge half point person. Like I typically would prefer an 8 or a 9. But when I looked at these two cards, both the 72 and the 73, they were so much nicer than the 8s that were for sale at the time that I went with the 8.5, because to me, they both look like 9s, and I don't know why they didn't get 9s. And then obviously the 74 there, that's where the price started getting a little bit more reasonable. So I started going with 9s and 74.
I should say, and that 74 card is a phenomenal baseball card. Because it's pretty much, that's the Nolan Ryan. That's how you can picture him in your head. when you
Yeah.
think about him. He's got the drop and drive. His knee is getting down there. It's like he's about to fire something in at like 100 miles an hour and strike out somebody. But it's just a phenomenal card, and he doesn't really have any not great cards.
I agree. I think all of his cards are pretty solid. So one of the reasons I really like the 74 is it's the card that shows his 73 strikeout
Yep.
record at 383 strikeouts. So that's a cool one.
Yeah, it's phenomenal card. And so I guess I just said that he doesn't have great cards. I don't know. The 76 is one of those ones that like I go back and forth. It's like, okay, he's like in the dugout, his hair is a little messed up, but I don't know. Is it a good card? Yeah.
So personally, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And we'll get to, so I actually, I personally, I think that's one of my favorites. And then I actually have, there's another example of this card later on that I have autographed that I picked when I had to pick a card to get autographed. I picked this one.
Yeah. There's also, I should mention there's a 77 cloth. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I've actually at one time owned the 77 cloth Nolan Ryan. And then you get 78's a great card, 79 is great, 80 is another fantastic one. Because it's got, it's very sort of it captures him as the dominant pitcher. And I should mention that 1980 he didn't pitch for the Angels.
He got traded.
Well, signed as a free agent, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, did he sign? Actually, he might have been. Was he traded?
I thought he got traded because that's when the Angels owner was like, I don't want
a sign and trade kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he did, right? He got traded, but then he signed. It was like his free agency came up. They didn't want him anymore. So then he signed. They got rid of him. And for him, it was like a win-win. He's like, oh, I get to move back to Texas and I get paid $1 million a year. Cool.
Yeah. I should say that I think there is a Burger King or a Coke version of the 1980 Topps that has them on the Astros.
On the Astros.
I think that's right. And then the 81.
81, great image. Focused. Yeah. His 82 though, I love that one. That
is a great card in a set that normally is not great. That is a great card.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of 83 Topps. I don't know if that's his best card, but it's decent.
I'm a fan of 83 as well. I like his 84. And sorry guys, I didn't realize how blurry some of these were. So yeah, 84. I love that. I just love that set. I think I have a nostalgic connection to that set because when I was first got into cards, like my first like goal card when I was like 9 was to pick up the Don Mattingly 84 Topps. Mm-hmm. So like I've always had kind of a special place in my heart for the 84 set. 85, I think there are other players' cards that I think look a little bit better than his in the 85 Topps set, but I still think it's a great image. Yeah. 86, this one, I like the card. I get frustrated though because the 10s in this are absurd.
Yeah, it's that black border again. Yeah.
Yep.
I actually do own this card because I have a complete 1986 set in a binder. So I should have pulled it out. But anyway, this is a time period when I'm back into the hobby, so I'm very familiar with these cards.
Nice.
Like the mid to late 80s.
Nice.
Yeah. And then 87.
And these are the cards. So like these are the cards from when I was collecting as a kid, right? 87, 88, 89. All of those. I like the image in all of them, right? Because they're all action shots.
Yeah.
The 89 though, I think is a cool one.
I like 88. I've always liked that set. I think it's underrated, but
I agree.
It's printed out the wazoo.
That's my one non-regular Topps. That's my Tiffany.
Oh yeah, it's Tiffany. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then and then obviously in 89 he also has his Topps traded.
Right. Yep.
There he is going to the Rangers. His 90 Topps, and then also in 90 that's when he had this card, but he also had the 4 other ones for his 5,000th strikeout where it shows, where it has images of him on the Mets, on the Angels, on the Astros, and on the Rangers.
That's the one. Okay.
5,000 a bunch of times in the background. The 91, I think, is probably one of my favorite images of him on the card, because that's like, the horizontal with
Follow
like
through.
the follow through. I just think that's
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And then 92, 93, and then I think he actually had a 94 tops, but I bought the pre-production one.
Yeah,
Obviously,
what's the difference there?
I'm not so I think the image on his 94 tops is different, and that was his last card. But when I was looking at them, they when I picked this one up, they had his 94 and then his 94 pre-prod, and there weren't that like there was a lot more of the regular 94s than the pre-prods for sale on eBay at the time. And I was just getting back into the hobby, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. I might as well get the pre-production run. It was about the same. It was about the same price as the regular one, so I thought that's kind of cool. It's just a little bit rarer.
Yeah. So let me show something that now that we're at the end of his actual. So this is, I don't know what's up with this website. The whole right side of it is gone, but like it's father son strikeouts. So I keep hearing 7 different families, but I then discovered that it's actually 8. So you've got Sandy Alomar Sr., Sandy Alomar Jr., and Roberto Alomar, all struck out by Nolan Ryan.
Yep.
The Bonds, of course, Barry and Bobby. Tito Francona and Terry Francona. Griffey, which is not shocking because the players played at the same time.
Right.
Hal McRae and then his son Brian McRae. There's Dick Schofield and Dick Schofield, both of whom were nicknamed Ducky. And then you got Maury Wills and Bump Wills.
Yeah.
So there you go. Those are the father-son combos. But you know what? There's another one.
Didn't he? I thought he struck out the Alous as well.
No, he never faced Moises Alou. The
Uh,
other one is Eduardo Perez. He struck out Tony Perez a bunch of times, in the early 70s, probably like a half a dozen times. And then Eduardo Perez played for the Angels in 93 and 94. And Nolan Ryan faced him as a Ranger, I think 3 times, and struck him out twice.
hmm.
So it's actually 8. If you do the internet, if you go on Chat GPT, or if you get an AI answer from Google, it says 7. But a little bit of deeper research, and somebody mentioned it in some forum or something, and then I looked it up, and sure enough, Baseball Reference tells you that it's 8 different father-son combinations, including
Nice.
3 Alous,
And that's
3 Alomars.
3 Almars, and that's what's great, right? When he pitched his 7th no hitter, the final batter for his 3rd out in the 9th inning was Roberto Alomar, and when he talked about it, he said, this is kind of funny, because he said, he's like, this is the guy that could make or break my 7th no hitter. And he goes, I used to play catch with him when he was like a little kid.
Yep.
When I was friends with his dad, and I used to play catch with him when he was a little kid, and now he's coming up to potentially be the guy to ruin my 7th no hitter.
Yeah. Yeah, Sandy Alomar Sr. Played with a bunch of teams, but one of the teams he did play for was the Angels with Nolan Ryan in the early 70s. And so they were teammates and buddies. And yeah, that is such a great story.
Yeah.
Love that. So I asked you to send me some other cool stuff, which you did, which includes I don't know what the item on the left is there.
So that's I don't know. It's some top special edition thing. It's like it's thick, like the car. It has like a metal gold colored border on it. It's the purple parallel out of 20 autographed. I saw this one online. I just thought it looked pretty cool, so I picked it up. And I'm not ever going to get it graded, because when I first bought it, it was perfect. And then a buddy of mine came over and asked if he could see some of my cards, so I showed it to him. And because it's thicker, it's in one of those, the top loader that's a little thicker,
Right.
but the top loader's a little too thick. So when my buddy took it, he turned it to look at it horizontally, and the card flew out of it and bounced off the wall and bounced off the ground. And since it has a metal edge on it, whatever the grade it was going to get, it's not getting that anymore. So I just keep it ungraded, because I just like the card. And then the 76, like we were talking about, there's the one I
Yep.
sent to Nolan Ryan. So to Darren, best wishes, Nolan Ryan. So that one, that card, there's a few Ryans that like his rookie, like cards that I'll never get rid of. This one I'll never get rid
Yep.
of. And
Right.
then the one on the right, I was at a card show with my friend Iconic Al in Denver, and I hadn't picked anything up yet because it was one of those typical Denver card shows where it was all modern stuff and Pokemon. And so I was like, and then we're actually getting ready to leave to go have lunch. And he was like, "Oh wait, hold on." And we went and looked at a case. Like the guy wasn't on one of the main aisles; he was like on like one of the side aisles. And he's like, "Check this one out." So like, yeah, that's pretty neat. So pick that up. It's got his best. I think it's cool just because it has its best stats, right?
Right.
324 wins, 5,714 strikeouts, 7 no hitters on his 69 top. So I thought that was a pretty sweet one. So I really like that one too. Like I like all my Nolan Ryan autos, but that one, the one in the middle, and then I have one coming up. I have a couple coming up in a bit. This one, love this. So my wife is awesome. I just want to get that out of the way. We for our anniversaries every year, she likes to get me a gift that is based on, how like different anniversaries have different things associated with them. So she likes to get me something based on that. So for our leather anniversary, it was like our second or third, I don't remember which one the leather is, but for our leather anniversary, she got me a Nolan Ryan autographed mitt, which is awesome,
Nice.
right? And he's got his 108.5 miles per hour because the machine they used to check his speed when they said he pitched 100.4 for Guinness Book of World Records, they said it was shoddy technology. And then somebody came back and said, some like physicist or something came back and said, based on like the inaccuracies of the algorithms within that device, I would estimate that it was 108.5. So that's never actually been like tested, but somebody way smarter than me told them that it was. So now, that's his thing. He likes to say he pitched 108.5.
No, that's great. That is such a great gift, honestly.
Yeah.
Really. And like we said before, it's got a really good signature. And in this, I guess it's sort of a silver Sharpie kind of there, or a white Sharpie kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's a silver Sharpie.
Yeah, it really sticks out nicely. Yeah, that is such a cool item.
So then,
Obviously there's a ball there, but what's the thing on the left?
so this actually, Greg from Midlife Cards, when he was a kid, he got this Nolan Ryan autograph, and he's had it since he was a kid, and he gifted it to me. So this is, I was saying, there's a couple things I would never sell. This
Yeah.
one for sure. Like this one, this actually sits on. I had it on my desk, but I actually didn't have a good angle at it, so I actually moved it to the bookcase next to my desk, so like I could look at it. I could just glance over and look at it whenever I want to check it out. But I love this. This is it was a super thoughtful gift from Greg, and I cherish this piece in my collection.
You gotta love the hobby, friends.
Yeah, and then
And
yeah,
as you
it's
know,
great.
I am a super, super fan of Greg. So, we're both on the same page.
Hmm.
Wonderful
And then
dude. And that's a wonderful gift.
yeah, that was very special when you sent that to me. And then we got the Nolan Ryan ball. This is the one that on my so when I do my videos, I have me here doing my intro and outro, but then I'm down
Right.
at my little table showing cards. This is
Yep.
the baseball that kind of sits in the background there.
So well, we'll get to the background in a second, but
So
there's
this
this I saw this, I'm like, oh my God, what
so
give me a story here.
you ready for the story on this one?
Yeah.
For my wife and my anniversary, for our cotton anniversary, she got me an autographed replica Mets jersey. But yeah, it's got all the 69 Miracle Mets, 7 no hitters. It's Hall of Fame 1999 Nolan Ryan. So like I said, my wife is so awesome at finding me like thoughtful gifts that are just like so incredible. And I feel like an asshole because I'll just buy her like a purse or something. And like I suck at finding I suck at heartfelt gifts, and she's so good at it.
This is amazing. And
Yeah.
just the Mets, the 30. I have to imagine that our mutual friend Mookie Chilson likes this one. If he's seen it,
I hope
hopefully
so.
he has.
Mook, let me know what you think in the comments or text me.
And then there's this, which
So yeah,
before we do that, let me
sure.
do this. I did pull it up, so let me see how this goes here. This is Robin Ventura.
Here's Ventura, RBI single in the first. Watch out. Look at this.
All right, well, that's enough of that.
So that's all. So the picture I've got that's just on the wall in my office here. I've got a few pictures hanging up on the wall. That's one of them. I love it because a couple things. One, he was my age when he did this. So like I couldn't imagine now, like, you know, if there was like a younger professional baseball player like running at me, I'd be like, uh-oh, this guy, he's same age as me now. And he's like, gotcha. So he put him in his, so he's a rancher, right? So he, you know, when he's dealing with cattle, you know, especially, you know, smaller cattle, I don't know what the proper term is for like a baby cow, a veal. I don't know. He, you know, he'd get him in headlocks. So he got this like rancher strength headlock and just starts beating on him, which I thought was just awesome for a guy his age. And kind of an interesting kind of side note on this, 13 years prior to this, to the day, August, I think it was August 4th, August 3rd. This was 1993. In 1980, to the day, 13 years, he hit Dave Winfield, and Dave Winfield charged the mound, and Ryan wasn't like fully prepared. He's like, oh, what the hell's, like, it was an accident. Why is Dave so pissed? And you realize as he approached him, he was like, holy shit, I think that he actually wants to hurt me. So he said it in his head, if any other fool ever is dumb enough to charge the mound, I am not, it's not like, whoa, what are you doing? It's like, I assume they're here to injure me, so they're done. So he had that in his mind for 13 years to the day, and then he beat up Ventura. And what's funny is both benches cleared. He got tackled. He was face down in the dirt on the bottom of the pile. And he started getting worried, right? He's like, I'm going to get trampled, or I'm going to pass out, right? And then he said he felt this like massive muscular arm grab him and literally pull him out from under a pile of other people. And he's like, what the hell's going on? He looks up, Bo Jackson saved him.
Well, we'll get to Bo in a second, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about Robin Ventura, because I don't know what he says about this, but Robin Ventura was a really good guy, or still is, who was a great teammate. He played for both the Mets and the Yankees, so I got to see him sort of day by day. Absolutely loved by his teammates. And at this time, he's probably 25, 26 years old. And he's a really good player. And he's not a Hall of Famer, but if you look at his numbers, he played like 17 years and 300 home runs. And, you know, he was an Olympian, gold medal Olympian, managed the White Sox for like 5 years in the early 2000s. He's like a really cool guy. And I don't know what came over him.
I think what I heard was that Ryan hit a White Sox the day before, and I guess the White Sox, the team made an agreement. Hey, if this guy hits, I guess not the day before because he went to pitch, but the last time they faced him,
right,
Ryan hit like literally the very last time. Like it might have been earlier in the series, I don't know, but the last time they faced Ryan hit somebody, and they said if he hits anybody, whoever he hits, you're charging the mound, and the whole team agreed on it.
Right.
So when he got hit, if you saw in the video, he got hit and didn't like immediately drop his bat and charge the mound, right? He got hit. He stepped away. He started walking a little bit towards first. He dropped the bat, and then you kind of see him kind of shake his head like, and then charges the mound because I guess it was more of a, all agreed that we would do this
Right,
if it
right.
happened. It happened, and I guarantee you, nobody thought that that's how Ryan would react to that, because he didn't give him a chance. I mean, as he approached, got him, locked him down in a headlock, and just started pounding.
Yeah,
on him.
he really just I don't know how many punches he got in, but there's a point where you can see in the video that Ventura does have a little bit of a bloody lip himself. So
yeah, I mean,
unfortunate
because 100 miles an hour all day long. I'm sure it could hit with a lot of force.
He's like I said, Ventura is a my memory of him. He had something in Mets history, what they call the walk-off grand slam single. It was in the 1999 playoffs, and it's in like the 10th or 11th inning. He comes up to the plate with the bases loaded, and he hits it over the fence for a grand slam. But his team mobs him after he crosses first, and he never crosses home plate. So he's only credited with a single, even though he hit the ball over the wall. So they call it the grand slam single. But Robin Ventura is known for that in the Mets, history, and a very well-liked guy. But it's unfortunate that a lot of baseball people remember him because of this, because this is not what he was about.
No, I agree.
You know?
I agree. And it's more of like, the team agreed to it. So he's like, well, if I don't do it, then I'm going to catch a lot of shit, right? So and he probably was hoping you'd kind of like rush him and maybe push, and then the benches would clear, but he wasn't expecting this reaction.
Yeah,
again, Ryan said, look, I thought Dave Winfield was going to kill me when he came up here, so I'm not letting that happen again. And luckily, Bo Jackson was there to drag him out.
So speaking of Bo, and this is our last slide, but this is behind you in some of your videos. So I've seen
this is my background image in all the videos where I show cards.
Yeah. And so I always had assumed that this was from the Ventura thing, but then I realized nobody got a shot in on Ryan. He didn't bleed in the Ventura thing because he won the fight. So tell us a story about what this.
So this was a different game. Bo Jackson, who saved him in that brawl. And by the way, in the brawl, Ventura got ejected and Ryan didn't. And they said that was the most punches they've ever seen thrown of somebody who didn't get ejected. I guess they just, they're like, he's 46, so whatever. But this Bo Jackson, so it's kind of funny, right? Like how like you tell a story over and over again and the lore changes. So, if you ask somebody that didn't see it, it's Bo Jackson, the strongest baseball player of his era, swung as hard as he could and hit a line drive right into Nolan Ryan's mouth, which is not exactly what happened. Bo Jackson, who was the strongest player of his era, like hit this little like piddly little crap hit, but it bounced and then hit Ryan, and it cut his lip. And then I guess after that, Bo Jackson got out, or maybe he did get to, I can't remember if he got to base or not, but then the next player got out. So then Ryan went into the dugout, and the team doctor stitched up his lip, and then he went back out the next inning, right? Which, that wouldn't happen anymore, but it's Nolan Ryan, so why not? This is the guy that when they started talking about pitch counts, and Bobby Valentine said, hey, you're at 100 pitches, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? What is that? Literally go back, go sit down, right? So he's tough. And I guess a lot of players like in that game were like, holy crap, like this guy wasn't intimidating enough. Now he's standing there with blood all over his jersey and blood coming down, like blood dried all over his face. And then, he finished the game with those stitches. I guess it was when it hit his lip, it hit it so hard that when he went like this, his tongue would come through, like it was such a big gash, his tongue would come through like below his lip there. So it was bad, but they stitched it up and he went back in, right? Like kind of like Ronnie Lott style.
Well, it's kind of like, I made this the last slide because it's kind of like, it's Texas. He's old. It's the end of his career, and he's basically like, this is sort of the way a great personification of what he was all about.
Defining
he's gonna throw
he was,
no matter what.
Yes.
Defining picture.
Yeah.
So before we clear out, there is one game, and I should have pulled up the numbers, but he threw. You mentioned pitch counts. I think it was like a 15-inning game against Tiant in like the early 70s when he was on the Angels, and he threw, and he struck out 19 guys. Not one of the 19 in 9 innings, but like 19 guys in like 15 innings, some crazy number. And then they said he pitched in his next rotation on 3 days rest against the Yankees and threw 6 shutout innings and then got taken out of the game. It's like he throws like 200 and something pitches in this ridiculous game and then comes back, on 3 days rest. But, that to me sort of personified his early career is just, the pitch counts, if you could probably see them, would make a current pitching coach cry because the numbers should speak. I mean, he probably consistently threw, 150 to 200 pitches every start.
And that was the thing, though, right? Like, that's the way he viewed it, right? It was, this is my job. This is what I do, and I'm good at it. And he knew that if he ever came out of a game, because he's like, look, like, I'm a little tired, I'm a little sore, his wife would eat him alive. She wouldn't put up with that. She's tough, right? So he's like, I got to go until I'm legit. Like, either I finish the game or like I'm like in pain, like legitimate pain, or else I'm not coming out, because she's gonna point it out.
Well, Darren, we've done the equivalent of a Nolan Ryan complete game in the early 70s. We've got an hour and 11 minutes, which is like throwing 180 pitches.
Yep.
But it has been my absolute pleasure.
It's been a blast, Dan. Thank you for having me on. This is really fun.
I could go on forever. We could talk about this for another hour and 11 minutes. But my wife just came in the room and gave me a little shout out because we're about to go lease a new car, and we got to go get it. So
good luck.
Were it not for the leased car appointment we have, I would keep going and be happy to speak with you because you're, like I said at the beginning, one of my favorite guys in the hobby, and that's because you're real, you're honest, you're truthful, you appreciate people, you have great eye for cards, you have a great collection, and I consider you a friend, and I'm so happy that you came.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate the kind words, and same with you. You're the best. And it's nice. It's great to come on your show. I actually was thinking about that like a month or two ago, where I'm like, you know what? I don't get invited onto collaborations that much anymore. And I'm like, I've never been on one with Dan. And then you're like, hey, you want to talk Nolan Ryan? I'm like, oh, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Exactly. Well, like I said before, I didn't have the cards that made me worth doing this. But now that I have them, and I got that little mini run in the early career, and they're nice cards, I'm pretty happy to show them off and to get to see your amazing collection. So, Darren, we're going to say goodbye.
Thanks for showing those.
Yeah, viewers, we'll be back next week. I'm working a show on Saturday on YouTube, so I'm really looking forward to that one too. Otherwise, hope you stuck with us to the end because it was definitely worthwhile. But see you guys later.